All right, today we are going to do our first lesson on the revolutions and the causes of the American Revolution. What we're going to do first in our composition book is we are going to make some divisions. So I want you to have an area to write, and I want you to have an area to draw pictures, so that way you can kind of illustrate as we go through. The first thing we're going to do is on the left side of your paper, we're going to draw a line about halfway over. This way up here, this is going to be for your definitions. And then we're going to make 9 different sections on our paper. So I'm going to try to get 3 on this side, on the rest of the left side. And then on the right side, we're going to divide it into 6 separate sections. Now, I know some of you will not use all the space that's there, but I want you to go ahead and do it for me anyway. 1, 2. All right, it'll look something like that. I know it's not perfectly even. Some of you it'll drive nuts, but I want you to have it. So over here, we will be writing our information, and they're all pretty short, and then drawing a picture to represent it all the way down. Now, our causes of the American Revolution, we're going to talk about a few different things, including some vocabulary. So the first thing that we're going to look at is our vocabulary. We have 4 words that we're going to define today. The first one is mercantilism. It's that economic system that only benefited the mother country. We've talked about it 100 times already. I know you're tired of it, but I need you to go ahead and have it again. The next one is taxation. It's the process of collecting money from citizens in order to fund government expenses. So taxes are a necessary evil no matter how much we dislike it. Next one is civil disobedience, and that is defying the government peacefully when you don't agree with the law. And a great example of that in this unit is going to be the Boston Tea Party later on. Next is, and lastly, is boycott. Is a refusal to buy something as a form of protest. And we're going to see that play a major role today. Now we're going to start with the French and Indian War. Again, this is the war between the French and the Indians versus the colonists and the English. They're going to go through, and we're going to have this war being fought. During the war, the colonists and the English are going to be able to defeat the French and the Indians. They're going to be able to extend their territory west, but the British are going to incur a lot of debt from the war, and they're going to create policies to regain money from the colonists. Their definition, or the reasoning for this, is that since they had to defend the colonists should at least pay them back. Next is that Proclamation of 1763 we've talked about a few times. It establishes the western border at the Appalachian Mountains. Britain, so we have that Appalachian Mountain line right here. Britain wants a buffer zone between the colonists and the American Indians to reduce the chance of violence. The farther away they are from each other, the less likely they are to fight. And the colonists wanted to extend beyond the mountains to gain fertile soil. So over here we have a lot of good farming land, and they felt like we should be able to push the Native Americans further and further west. The next one we have is the Sugar Act. And this is the first tax by the British to recover money from the English colonies. It is a tax on all sugar that's not produced or made by the British. All sugar imported or brought in from other countries will cost more money. And the British sugar was boycotted and eventually repealed. So they're going to refuse to buy it in the colonies, and they're going to repeal it or take away the Sugar Act. But that wasn't the last chance they had. The next one was Stamp Act, and it required a specific stamp, this right here, to be on all papers, specifically official papers, for it to be legal. It forced all papers to cost more. Without it having that stamp, nothing could legally happen, especially for legal papers like I'm suing you for something. And people are going to be boycotted. People will boycott it, and eventually be repealed. The third act that we have is called the Townshend Acts. It was a tax on glass, paper, paint, lead, and tea. So all the things people needed on a daily basis. And again, the colonists are going to boycott it, and it's eventually repealed. Then we have the Boston Massacre. Now, the Boston Massacre is one of the most well-known events to happen during the Revolution. And we're going to see what's going to happen is we're going to have a group of colonists that are protesting, and we're going to have the British response. It's hard to get a good story of what really happened, and it's kind of what you've read about. The story goes that people were throwing snowballs at soldiers, and soldiers opened fire. Some of the soldiers claimed that there were things inside the snowballs, like pieces of metal or glass or things like that. This picture right here is the most famous picture from all of it, and I want you to make a note of it that Paul Revere, the guy that said the British are coming, the British are coming, he is going to be the one. He is going to be the one that makes this picture, and it's going to be the most famous picture from the Boston Massacre. And the soldiers are going to all stand trial and be defended by John Adams, who later becomes our second president. But he is able to free all the soldiers from any wrongdoing. Next, we have the Tea Act in May of 1773. It is a tax on all tea that was imported except from England. The tax forced all colonists to pay more for other tea or buy cheap tea from England. And people don't like being told what to buy, so they're going to refuse to buy it. And by doing that, it's going to continue to cause problems, because this is like the national tea. Tea is the national drink of England. No matter what you do in life, if you see anything British, they're always going to have a cup of tea. So the colonists' response to this is the Boston Tea Party in December of 1773. The Sons of Liberty are going to dress up as Native Americans and throw about $3 million worth of tea into Boston Harbor. This is going to anger the British enormously because they just lost $3 million. The colonists have no regard. This is an example of civil disobedience. And because it's an example of civil disobedience, it's something that we're going to need to remember for the rest of the year. So the final British act, before we get to the Declaration of Independence and the first battles of the Revolution, is that they closed the port of the British closed the port of Boston until all the tea was paid for. Sorry, I can't talk there. This is called the Intolerable Acts. Basically, it's going to force Boston into paying this $3 million fine without being able to make any money of their own. It's going to restructure the Massachusetts government to fit the British parliamentary look. Troops are going to be quartered in Boston. That means they show up to your house, they take over your house, and you don't have a say in it, or you go to jail. Anybody that was British that was accused of crimes are now sent to England or Canada for trial, and colonists continue to boycott all British goods in the First Continental Congress meets to decide what they should do. Now, along with this, we have this flag right here. It says "Join or Die." This is a flag by Benjamin Franklin that talks about how a rattlesnake, it's the fable of a rattlesnake, how he would, if you separate him out and kill him, then he is no longer able to live and no longer able to be a full rattlesnake and to bite again. But if they could unify, if the colonies could all unify together, then they would be able to take on the British, which would be a huge endeavor. So go ahead and finish the rest of your notes and make sure you have your I learned statement.